Hi, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass, 5 Steps to Discovering Your Dharma. My name is Katie Varinas, and I am a yogini, a spiritual teacher, a podcaster, and a life coach for women who are looking to come home to themselves, uncover who they were meant to be, and live into that life. I started down this journey myself many years ago because, like many of you who are probably watching this masterclass, life just felt incomplete. I had done all the things, checked all the boxes, done well in school, became college educated, started a career, bought a home, got married, had children, had financial success. Check, check, check. And yet, there was something missing. There was something off. There was something that I knew I was supposed to be doing, and yet I couldn't figure out what it was. And as a result, life kind of felt blah or dull, like it was in black and white. I had this persistent nagging that something was off, that my life didn't feel fulfilling or meaningful or purposeful or full of passion and joy. And yet I felt really guilty about feeling those things because I had all of the trappings of a good life. So if that's you, if you're feeling like there's something missing, I feel this internal pull, and yet I can't quite put my finger on it, then you are in the right place. Because when we don't follow our Dharma, which is really just your soul's purpose, we feel anxious, we feel depressed, we have trouble riding the wave of the challenging things that come our way. We have trouble being satisfied in relationships, jobs, and all of our interactions because our soul's purpose came here to be expressed. It was placed in our bodies when we came here to this earth, and it will never stop whispering to you and trying to get you to pay attention. In my own life, I couldn't figure it out until life got pretty lifey. I had some really challenging things happen to me in my life, and it forced me to let go of the old narratives, the cultural conditioning, the shoulds, and come home to myself in a way that I hadn't been able to do before. And in that journey, I discovered my soul's purpose. Discovered my Dharma, the thing that lights my soul on fire, and the reason why I came to this earthly plane. And we're going to help you do the same thing in this masterclass. So if you'll join me, we are ready to begin this journey together. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that the information that I'm about to share with you today is not mine. It's been passed down over thousands of years through the ancient science and practice of yoga. As I mentioned, I'm a yogini, which means I'm a certified yoga teacher. But more than that, I'm a student of yoga. I continue to get certifications, read books, and really spend every day diving into this ancient wisdom. And I do so because I believe so strongly in the power it has to transform our lives, our personal lives, and our families, our workplaces, and the world at large. The concept of Dharma is a pretty big one. And in fact, the word Dharma is a Sanskrit word and it means sacred duty. Now, we all have many sacred duties in our lives. We have a sacred duty to our family, to our work, to our relationships, to the world at large. But perhaps our most important sacred duty is to that is that of ourselves, the sacred duty to ourselves. And that's called Svadharma, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And unfortunately, we tend to forget about this duty. Most of us continue to take care of our duties related to our jobs and to parenthood and to partnerships and relationships. But when it comes to the sacred duty to ourselves, we often put that on the back burner. And what happens is over time, as we continue to do this over and over and over again, we start to lose that connection to ourselves. And I want to be clear, that connection is never truly lost. But what was once pretty easy to hear, that internal guidance, starts to become a quieter and quieter whisper until we feel like we can't hear it anymore. And so when I work with people to come home to their soul's purpose or their Dharma, we work on learning or relearning how to listen to our intuition, how to calm our nervous systems so that we can get quiet and still and listen for that small voice inside that has all of the answers. So if we all have a Dharma, and we're given this Dharma before we even enter this earthly plane, how do we get so off track? Well, the answer to that is both simple and complicated. The simple answer is we are human beings, and as human beings, we are seeking love and connection and acceptance. We're seeking community, and anything that threatens that in our minds makes us abandon ourselves. So that could be the way in which you were parented or what culture has taught you. It could be experiences that you've had in your life. It could be the job that you decided to take, or even close relationships like close friends or a partnership. Anything in life that when you started to express your true, authentic self, something happened that told you that that wasn't okay. So, for example, maybe as a child, you were full of energy, one of those kids running around, bouncing off the walls, and it drove your parents nuts. And so they were constantly telling you to quiet down, to be more calm or more still, to basically stop being yourself because it was annoying to them. And you would have perceived that as a child as a threat. I don't want to make my parents angry. I want to be good. I want their love and affection. And when I am quieter and less energetic, they seem to be more loving. And so you internalize that as it's wrong of me to be loud or to be very energetic. And so I have to control this part of me if I want to receive love and acceptance. And this happens over and over in our lives. And we get pulled away from our center. We get pulled off course. And we also get handed a script in life. We get put on the conveyor belt of the educational system where we get acceptance and love and what's the word I'm looking for? We get a lot of attention, positive attention when we do well in school. And when we don't do well in school, we get negative attention and we start to feel less than. We get told as women that we have to be a certain way because we are women, and we get told we have to be a certain way if we are men. We have to fit into the cultural expectations or boxes. And if we just don't, if that's not who we are, then we start to twist and bend and contort ourselves into things that we aren't in an effort to fit, in an effort to feel like part of the community, part of the friend circle, part of the workplace. And we abandon ourselves. And we do it in an effort for joy, love, happiness, a sense of fulfillment and connection and well being. But ultimately, when we abandon ourselves, we are riding a runaway train in the opposite direction of all of those things that we seek. There is something called the arrival fallacy, and this was first discovered by a scientist at Harvard whose name was Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. And what he found through his research is that for most people, we think that the next thing will bring us the joy, happiness, peace, love, fulfillment, meaning that we are seeking. So this could be maybe once I get into college, I will feel all of those things. But then we realize, no, that's not the answer. Maybe it's when I graduate and I get the perfect job. And then we get the job and it's not the answer. Maybe it's when I find my soulmate, my partner, and get married. Maybe it's when I have children. Maybe it's when I get the next raise. Maybe it's when I finally get that second home, fancy car, boat, vacation, whatever it is, fill in the blank. I will feel the sense of fulfillment that I'm seeking. But again and again, time after time, we achieve those landmarks. We reach those goals, and we may feel really happy and excited for a brief moment. But before long, we are back to the same sense of emptiness, the same gnawing unrest that doesn't allow us to be with ourselves, the same feeling that life just doesn't feel vibrant. You don't feel alive and lit up and excited by life. In fact, everything kind of feels like an uphill climb. And that's the arrival fallacy. We think that when we arrive, we will feel and have all the things that we are seeking. But the truth is that everything that you're seeking is within you, and you don't need any of those things to feel the love, the joy, the peace, the acceptance, the community, the passion, purpose, meaning. All of that resides within you. And in fact, you will feel most of those things when you give away what you came here to give away. So, another really important part about Dharma is that it's not just about you, it's about the world. It's about your family and friends, everyone that you come into contact with, and those you will never meet. Because what happens when we start living our true essence, living from the core of who we are and doing the things that we came here to do? We light up, and that energy is contagious. We are all energetic beings, and we can spread fear and hate like wildfire, but we can spread love and compassion and peace and joy just as easily. And when we learn to live from our essence, when we uncover what our soul really came here to do and we start doing it, it lights this fire inside us that becomes contagious, but in a really, really positive way. Because Dharma is two things: it's your essence, your soul's purpose, plus the expression of that essence. Your essence is with you, it's always been with you, and it will always be with you. But unless it's expressed, it's always going to feel like it's missing. We have to express it. But in order to express it, we have to uncover it, right? We have to remove those layers that we developed over the years, trying to protect ourselves and trying to feel the love and the connection that we were seeking and trying to have the success that we desired. We need to peel all of that back and come home to ourselves so that we can really live out our essence and serve ourselves and the world. And I don't know about you, but the world we're living in right now, it's a lot. It's really challenging. There's so much going on. And this world needs people who are living their essence, their dharma, they're expressing it. It needs people who are full of passion, purpose, joy, abundance, love. It needs people who are super lit up about what they're doing. And when we're not, when we're just going through the motions like many of us do every single day, we're not very effective people. We're not effective in our personal lives, and we're not effective in making this world a better place. We all know it. We've all experienced the difference between doing something that we love and that lights us up and doing something that just has to get done, even though we don't enjoy it. We know the difference in the energy that we feel, in the job that we do, in how it impacts others. It's a huge difference, huge. And this world needs you. Whatever your Dharma is, whatever you are sent here to do, the world needs it because God, the divine, whatever you want to use, whatever term you like to call, that thing that's bigger than all of us, it doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't send people here by accident. It does it on purpose. And so your purpose, whatever that be, small or large, is absolutely needed here and now. Before we jump into our first step, I just want to say something. We each have this fire burning inside of us, and we each have a choice. The choice to express our Dharma or to leave it tucked away. But I would argue that that is the choice between emptiness and fulfillment in your life. So, which one do you choose? If you choose fulfillment, if you want to move towards a life that feels lit up and full of passion and meaning and excitement, one that you actually are excited to get out of bed in the morning to do the thing you came here to do, then let's jump into the first step. So, our first step is to begin to learn how to get back into our bodies. We live in a culture that really places a lot of emphasis on the left side of our brain. That's that logical reasoning side, the side you would use to make a pros con list. But the right side of the brain is all about emotions, intuition, and creativity. And the right side of the brain helps us get into our bodies. When we've spent a lifetime primarily using that critical thinking left side, we get detached from our bodies. We don't notice the subtle sensations and clues it's giving us that help us to lean towards where we're supposed to go. Because here's the thing about our bodies, they don't lie. If you've ever struggled with anxiety, you know that the mind lies all day, every day. It tells us things all the time that are simply untrue and at best extremely unlikely. But we tend to attach to those thoughts and believe them. And when we learn to get into our body, we can learn to separate ourselves from those thoughts, to see them as just thoughts, and to lean into what our body is trying to tell us. Because the body, as I mentioned, doesn't lie, and it's wise beyond measure. I like to say that our bodies are like toddlers. If you've ever raised a child, you know how toddlers can be. If you tell them something that they don't want to hear, they might fly into a wild tantrum. It doesn't matter how much reasoning you try to do, they want what they want and they know it. And our body is just like that. It won't lie to you and it will not be influenced by things like culture, family, friends, or even the nasty F word, fear. It just has wisdom and it shares that wisdom. So, we're going to do a little exercise to begin to learn how to re enter our bodies. As a yoga teacher, this is something I do with my students all the time. And as I mentioned in the very beginning of this masterclass, I myself went through some really challenging times, and yoga was my way back. It really did for me, in part, what I'm about to do for you, which is help me to reconnect with my intuition when I was so lost, when I was so deep in the cultural conditioning of the shoulds, of the have tos, of being good, of pleasing others, pleasing parents, pleasing my partner, pleasing the world at large. When I was deep in fear of not being good enough, getting back in my body was one of the first steps that helped me to hear that little voice inside. So if you are in a place that you can close your eyes and be quiet for a few moments, then let's do this together. If not, pause the video and come back at a later time. Certainly don't do this if you're driving. I want to make sure that you are nice and safe. But if you can take a seat somewhere, maybe cross-legged on the floor, an easy seat, or just sitting in a chair. And then if you feel comfortable closing the eyes, if you don't feel comfortable closing the eyes, you can just take a hazy gaze on the floor in front of you. What we're trying to do by closing the eyes or taking that hazy gaze is to begin to shut out the external world and just come in to our internal world, into our bodies. Let's take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose, out through the mouth. One last time, big deep inhale in through the nose and out through the mouth. And then just settle in, returning your breath to normal, in and out through the nose, and trying to watch your breath. Maybe feeling your chest rising and falling. For some people, it's helpful to place a hand on the heart or the belly and to feel the rise and fall. And think about something in your past, something that you really loved to do, something that made you feel that sense of unbridled joy, happiness, and excitement. Just bring it to mind. This could be something from your childhood or something that happened last week. Whatever it is, bring it to life in your mind with as much clarity as possible. Begin to look around the scene. Who or what is there? Are you alone or are you with people you care about? Are you out in nature or somewhere else? Seeing as many details as you can recall. Now think about what you're hearing. What did you hear during this time? Maybe there's music playing. Maybe you're hearing the sounds of nature like trees ruffling or birds singing. Maybe you're hearing the voices of those you care about. What are you feeling in this scene? What are you feeling on your skin? What are you feeling inside your body? Are you standing, sitting? Are you moving or being still? Is there any taste associated with this memory? Are you eating at a really great restaurant? Are you sipping delicious wine? And lastly, is there anything that you can smell? If this memory is in nature, maybe you're smelling salty ocean air or the smell of a luscious forest. Or maybe you're smelling yummy food that someone cooked. Just bringing it to life. And now that you have the scene in your mind, just drop your awareness into your body. How is your head feeling? How is your throat feeling? How is your chest feeling? How about your belly, arms, and legs? Do they feel light, open, airy? Do they feel relaxed? Do they feel a little tingly? Is there a color associated with these feelings? Does a color automatically come to mind? Just memorize what your body's feeling in this moment. And then when you're ready, intentionally sending some love and gratitude towards this memory and releasing it. Coming back to your breath, feeling those inhales and exhales. And when you feel ready, opening your eyes. So, if you were able to play along with me, I hope you could get a good sense of what your body felt like in that memory. Because the feelings that you felt during that meditation are the feelings you want to start to become aware of in your everyday life. When do you feel that lightness of being? When do you feel energized? When do you feel like your body is open, right? Like it's not contracted. It's very spacious and open. When do you feel that sensation in your chest, like maybe your heart is going to burst right on out of your chest? When do you feel both peaceful and excited at the same time? These are all signals from the body that you are moving in the right direction, that you are headed toward what your soul came here to do. The things that you love, the things that really make you happy, they're not accidents. And they're not just for the purpose of making you happy in that moment. They're a clue. They're a clue, a breadcrumb on the path towards your Dharma. We've kind of, many of us have adopted this idea that we need to suffer, that suffering is part of the human journey, and that if we're not suffering, then we're not working hard or we're not doing something right. But we at our essence, at the soul level, are joy, peace, love, and abundance. And so we are meant to live into those things in this material world. And yes, life is going to do its lifey things. Things are going to come that are challenging and hard and that we have to learn to navigate. But through the really challenging stuff and through the everyday mundane, we should be constantly redirecting to joy, redirecting to the things that bring us a true sense of vitality. They are they are there for a reason, and they are going to lead you back home to yourself. Okay, so that exercise we just did, I highly encourage you to do that on a regular basis. That's not a one-time exercise. When we're learning to get into our bodies, we really need to practice, especially if we have been away from them for a while. So practice visualizing things that really light you up. And it could even be something that you have never done before. This is actually a manifestation technique, but something that you think that you would love to do and would bring you a lot of joy. Visualize doing that thing and do it in the way that we did it, where you really bring it to life with all of your five senses. And then the next step to that would be to begin making small choices in your life by using your body. So once you start to become familiar with how your body feels when you're moving towards clues to your Dharma, you're moving towards the things that light you up, then you can use those bodily sensations as guides in your life. So make small decisions like what you want to eat for dinner or what you want to wear for the day. We often do these things out of habit. We don't really stop and think, what do I really want to eat today? Or how am I feeling in my body? How do I want to dress today? We get patterned in our patterns. So make those small decisions. Even something like, do I want to go out with friends tonight or stay home? I had someone on my podcast once, and she was telling a story about how a friend of hers, she's an intuitive coach, so she's very much into intuition. And she had a friend reach out to her and say, do you want to go out tonight? And for some reason, this woman was feeling something inside telling her that she should stay home. And she couldn't quite understand it because, from a logical perspective, there was nothing going on that required her to stay home, but she knew she was having this internal feeling. And so she told the friend, I will let you know. I'm waiting to hear back from someone. And she said, the someone was me. And I just love that. And I think about it all the time and use it in my own life. We don't need to make decisions based on habits or expectations from others or from a logical perspective. We can pause and wait to hear back from ourselves. And so, in every small decision that you can think of on a daily basis, I encourage you to do that, to pause, to listen, and to wait to hear back from yourself. And this is neuroplasticity. The more you do this, the easier that this will become, the stronger that the signals will come through, and the easier you will be able to understand and detect those signals and make really good intuitive decisions based on them. Okay, so here we go for step 3, following the path of fascination. So, what does that mean? Well, here's an exercise that I think requires a journal. So, I'm going to walk you through it here, but I encourage you to go back and journal on this at the end of class. The path of fascination means that we move toward anything and everything that fascinates us. Those things that we just can't get enough of. We want to read about them, learn about them, do them, talk to people who do them, watch people who do them, right? We just cannot get enough of these things. And they are clues to what your soul is calling for. So write down anything and everything that you can think of that fascinates you. For me, one of my big clues was yoga and yoga philosophy, right? I started out just taking classes and I loved them and I wanted to go as often as I could. And then I wanted to know more and more and more. And so I started going to all different studios, taking all different teachers, going to retreats, reading books, becoming certified. The list goes on and on because this fascination that I have with this ancient wisdom is undeniable. And I've brought it into every aspect of my life. So it influences obviously my work now, but my relationship with my husband, the way I parent my children, how I show up as a friend and a daughter. I was a nurse for 20 years, how I showed up as a nurse. So it's so fascinating to me that I want to bring it into every aspect of my life. And so think about those things, journal on them, write them down. What are those things that have fascinated you maybe for a lifetime? I can tell you personally, I felt a deep spiritual connection to the divine, the universe, whatever name you want to call this greater being, God, from my earliest memories. And so this deep spirituality and connection has always fascinated me, and it took me a long time to find my particular path of how to dive into that information in a way that felt good for me. But in retrospect, looking back over my life, I can see how it kept showing up for me over and over in different ways. So, what fascinates you now? And then look back on your life and what has fascinated you over the years. And is there a link? Is there some connection between these different things that have really caught your attention and you've really wanted to dive into in a really deep way? They're the things that, again, if you have children, and you've ever had a child that gets like super into something and it's all they want to talk about, and by the end, your head is just spinning. You don't want to hear about that thing one more time, but they're still so super fascinated about it. That is the type of fascination I'm talking about. And it's okay if you can't think of something right away, because as adults, oftentimes we forget to follow our path of fascination. We think we don't have enough time, we don't have enough money, we might not be good enough. In our minds, we believe we are not good enough. We are scared of looking foolish or silly, or a million other reasons why we deny ourselves following the things that we're passionate about. So it could take a little bit of time to reflect on this and reflect on where you are getting deeply pulled. But once you figure that out, once you start to see trends and themes, then think about how you can engage in those things now in your everyday life. What can you do? Maybe it's just reading a book on the subject or talking to someone who is really deeply entrenched in whatever it is that you're fascinated by. Maybe it's by taking a class or a lesson. Maybe it's by finding a group that is involved doing the things that you are interested in doing. Each of your interests it's a guidepost, as I mentioned before, it's a breadcrumb on this trail. And we want to follow those. If you're looking to discover your soul's purpose, your soul is giving you clues. It's giving you clues all day, every day. And two of those major clues are what lights you up and how you feel inside your body when you're doing things. They are huge clues as to where your soul wants to go. The next really important guidepost on your way to uncovering your Dharma or your soul's purpose is identifying your values. There's a book by Bonnie Ware, and it's called The Top Five Regrets of the Dying. And Bonnie sat with thousands of dying people, and they had really profound end of life conversations. And she says that the number one regret expressed by dying patients was, I wish I had had the courage to live a life that was true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And that hit me hard when I read that. It's something that I can see could easily happen when we're on this conveyor belt and we are checking all the boxes of life and we're living out all of our shoulds and trying to be accepted or trying to be successful or trying to fit in with the culture at large. We abandon ourselves, as I mentioned. And in that abandoning, we actually aren't living the values that are most dear to our hearts, that give our life the most meaning. So take a moment. We're going to close our eyes again. We're going to come back to that breath. Once again, if you're driving or somewhere unsafe, please pause this and come back. But if you were somewhere safe and you can close your eyes, I invite you to do so. And come into that breath, maybe placing that hand on a belly or on a chest if you're having trouble feeling the rise and fall of the chest and of the belly. Now imagine you are at your own end of life celebration and you have your children, maybe a partner, friends, other family members, coworkers, all the people that you care about or regularly interact with are there. And they each get up to say something about you. What are they saying? What are those people who are closest to you and have spent the most time with you saying about you as a person and how you lived your life? Maybe they're saying that you're kind, loving, loyal. Maybe you're creative, passionate. Maybe you're funny. Maybe you are really good at making heartfelt connections. And whatever people are saying, does it match with what's in your heart and your soul? Does it match who you aspire to be and not for anyone else, but because those are the things that you truly value? Are you living into those values? Now, coming back to the breath, and when you feel ready, opening your eyes. I encourage you to journal on this. Come up with 5 core values. And these are things beyond valuing your family or valuing your time, which I'm sure you do. But what makes you you? What values, what combination of values could you not imagine living without? I can tell you for myself, connection is a huge value that I cannot live without. And it is part of everything I do. Connection with my family, with neighbors, with friends, with my clients, with my yoga students. In every way I can, I foster connection. Because for me, life isn't worth living without connection. And that's one of the questions you can ask yourself. What makes life worth living? Connection is so deep for me, it's into the spiritual realm, right? Not just this 3D realm. Learning is another huge value that I personally live out. To me, when I stop learning, I might as well not be here. I need to learn every day, 7 days a week. I am learning. And that's not because I think I have to or I should. It's because I value learning that much. Physical movement is another big value in my life, moving my body. I can't imagine not moving my body every single day. And I don't mean just doing my activities of daily living. I mean some form of physical exertion, right? So these are just some examples to help you get started on writing your list of values and then deciding if you are regularly living those values. Not every once in a while, not when you have time, but every day or nearly every day, are you living into those values? And if the answer is no, there is never any shame or blame or guilt. It's just awareness, right? This exercise is about building awareness in your life about, am I living into this value that I know is so important to me? And if I'm not, or if I'm not enough, then how can I make some small shifts in my life so that I can begin living this value or living into it more often? And when you do, when you begin living into the value, you will get more clues about how you want to express your essence or how you want to live into your Dharma. Your values, once again, are there for a reason. Everything is a clue, and your values are a big one. Okay, here we are on the last step. So, this last one is looking at your life challenges. In yoga, there's something called the dark night of the soul. I'm sure you've heard that expression before. And the dark night of the soul is basically something that you have gone through that is been really, really hard in your life, something that has broken you open in a lot of ways and really shattered your way of seeing yourself or seeing the world. It's something that really changed you internally in a lot of ways. And we go through these hard things in life, and it can feel really unfair, and we can get angry and we can shut ourselves off to the world. But these things, these challenges, these dark night of the soul experiences, they're on purpose. They are not random, although they may feel so random in the moment. They are on purpose, and they were given to you to help you uncover your Dharma. I know that sounds crazy. And I'll tell you, probably at the beginning of my journey, I wouldn't have believed that. In fact, when I was 35, I had my first true dark night of the soul experience. I developed chronic migraine. It was extremely debilitating. I couldn't work or take care of my young children at the time, and I contemplated not staying here on this earth. And if you told me at that time that it would be one of my greatest teachers, I would have thought you were crazy. But the truth is, it was and is. And by learning to see it that way, by seeing the gifts that were inside of this really challenging circumstance, I was able to see where my strengths lie and how I can use those strengths to serve other people. And in serving other people, I lit up my own world. When I was going through this really hard experience, I had done yoga in the past. It had been part of my exercise routine, but to me, it was nothing more than exercise. But during that time, when I really couldn't do much of anything, going to yoga and doing a few very slow and simple moves and then laying on the mat in savasana was pretty much all I could handle. But while I was there, I heard those Dharma talks, I heard that yogic wisdom, and it started to seep in and it started to shed a little light into my world. And it was the beginning for me of this journey that I've been on for the past 15 years of deepening my knowledge and my wisdom and my experience of the theory and practice and science of yoga. And it is through that first Dark Night of the Soul experience that I came to discover my deep passion for spirituality and for sharing this wisdom to help others to live a better life. As I mentioned previously, I was a bedside nurse for 20 years, and probably the part that I enjoyed the most about my time at the bedside was just that deep caring and connection, that intimacy that I was able to develop with my patients. And as I evolved and changed, I knew that those things were deep values for me. They were part of my Dharma, but they were no longer the way in which I was supposed to express them, right? So we've talked about essence and expression. So part of my essence is that way of holding space for people, of connecting and helping them to feel held and seen. It's developing intimacy and caring for people. And for many years, I was able to express that as a bedside nurse. But after going through this dark night of the soul experience, I realized, and a few others I might add, just for keeping this masterclass not too long, I won't go into all of the details. If you listen to my podcast, which I'll give you all the details for that at the end, I go into more about my journey. But to keep things more simple for now, that was the beginning, we shall say, of uncovering how I was supposed to express my Dharma at this stage of my life. And so our dark nights are challenges, those things that we wish never ever happened to us in our lives. And they can be small and they can be life altering. They are there to show you where your strengths, your gifts, your talents lie and how you are meant to serve yourself and serve the world. So I encourage you to take a look at those. Take a look at those things in your life that you thought you'd never make it through. You just thought, there's no way I can get through this. And yet you did. And coming out the other side, what did you learn? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about life? What did you learn about how you wanted to show up in life? Really spend some time dissecting the experience and what it gave to you. And it will give you a clue as to where you're supposed to go next. When I was going through what I was going through, I was so lost. I had no idea why this was happening, if it would ever end, what it meant for my life and for my family. I was so lost. And now looking back, on the other side, I see that it was all for a reason, that it all was supposed to be, and that I would never be here with you doing this had I not gone through that. So take some time and reflect back on those circumstances. All right, so let's review our 5 steps. The first one is getting into your body, practicing that visualization that we did in the very beginning of this masterclass, really memorizing and learning what your body feels like when it's saying a hell yes, right? When it's telling you, yes, you're going in the right direction. This is correct. Once you memorize that feeling, step number 2 is to start following it in your life, doing it in small ways. Small decisions like what you want to eat, what you want to wear, what you want to do on a Saturday afternoon. Any and every small decision you can think of, stop and wait to hear back from yourself and then proceed. And know that these are small decisions. So if you haven't quite learned the language of your body yet and you make the wrong decision, no harm, no foul. But we practice small so that over time we can really memorize and understand how our body is communicating with us and then use that wisdom to make larger decisions. Step number 3 was to follow your path of fascination. And I don't think I mentioned this when we were talking about it, but when you're following your path of fascination, please disregard any and all judgments from other people. Often, when we're following this path of fascination, it seems like it doesn't make sense. It maybe is costly or takes time, or maybe it feels a little bit scary, like you're going to be seen, you're going to have to put yourself out there. There are many reasons we hold back from following this path of fascination, but the work here is to follow it, even if it doesn't make sense, even if others don't understand, even if you don't understand. If you are fascinated by it, if you are being called and pulled in a direction, this is the work, is to follow that call and that pull in any way that you can. And particularly those pulls that keep showing up year after year after year. We all have them, those things in our lives that we think about doing and we've thought about doing for ever, it seems like, but we never seem to get around to doing it. That's your soul knocking. It is knocking loud and clear. Please open the door. Open the door and follow it wherever it may lead, and release the desire to have an understanding of what the outcome will be, right? Release the outcome, just listen and follow and see what unfolds. And it's super fun. I promise you, once you start doing it, it's really, really fun. The other thing about the path of fascination that I will mention is sometimes we think we want to do something and then we do it and it's maybe not quite as fun as we thought it was going to be, or we don't feel as pulled toward it anymore than we were previously to doing it, prior to doing it. But usually there's something during that experience that does call to us. And so if you can figure that out, then you can understand why you thought you were pulled to do it and how you can engage in that component of the activity in another way in your life. Okay, so that's the path of fascination. That was number three. Number four, identifying your values. So sitting down, pen and paper, and really journaling on for you in your life and your soul, what makes a life worth living? What are the things that if you didn't do, you would feel like there really wasn't much of a point to being here? I mentioned for me, some of them were connection and learning, and spirituality. What are the things that really make you feel like yourself? And that, if you took them away, you're not sure who you would be. Those are your truest values. And are you living into them? Would the people at your ceremony, your end of life ceremony, say you were those things, right? If it was my end of life ceremony, would people be saying, she was so good at connecting with others. She loved to learn. She was constantly learning new things. She was always using her body. Till the end, she was finding new ways to challenge her body, right? These are the things. Nature is another huge value of mine. She was always out in nature. You couldn't get this girl out of a forest, right? And she was always trying to get everybody to come to the woods with her or go to the yoga class with her because she was that passionate about it. Those are the things I want you to think about. And lastly, your dark night of the soul experience or experiences. Maybe taking some time to journal on this as well. What really challenging, life disrupting things have you gone through? And what have you learned about yourself and about life? And how can you use what you learned to understand your Dharma and to start walking that path? For me, the one that I mentioned led me to you. I wouldn't be here without that dark night of the soul experience. And although I wouldn't wish it on anyone, I'm so grateful for it because it helped me to crack open and to shed all of those layers that weren't myself and to really find out who I was. So, what experience was that for you? Okay, I hope that this masterclass was helpful. We can stay in touch in lots of different ways. I have a podcast called the Midlife Purpose Project that you can find on any podcast platform. You can sign up for my newsletter, my weekly newsletter, where I give you all kinds of wisdom, knowledge based on Vedic philosophy and modern science on how to come home to yourself and how to live this life of purpose. And you can sign up for that at katiefarinas.com. My Instagram handle is katie.farinas, and my email is katie@katiefarinas.com. So if there's anything from this masterclass that you have questions about, you want more clarity on, you can email me or DM me on Instagram. And lastly, if you really enjoyed this and it opened something up for you and you're feeling that internal pull that you want to dive deeper, you want to live a life that feels authentic to you, one where you're excited to get out of bed every day, one where you feel a deep sense of peace and groundedness, one where you know how to follow your intuition, you allow your intuition to guide all of your choices, one that allows you to get out of that critical thinking, left-sided brain and get into your creative, emotional, right brain, then book a call, book a discovery call, and we can talk about a coaching package that works for you. I have a few different packages. Some of them actually involve yoga as part of the coaching program, and some do not. So we can talk about something that suits you and your budget and your lifestyle and your time. But I love working with my clients. I told you that one of the biggest parts of my own personal dharma and something that I value tremendously is connection. So I get very connected with my clients, and we work closely together. And I love seeing the transformation that happens in their lives. It truly is the joy of my own life, is to see that transformation, which is what we came back to with Dharma, right? So Dharma is living a life that really lights you up and you feel passionate about, but that serves others. And that's how I do this. That's how I live my Dharma, is by doing this work that I feel so passionate about and using it to serve my clients. So if you want to live this life where every day actually feels magical, we have those magical moments and we feel like they can't last. I promise you, there is so much more magic in this life than you ever knew possible. And it doesn't have to be on your dream vacation. It can be every day in your real life, in the midst of the chaos. You can feel the magic. And that's the work I do with my clients. So katiefarinas.com, book a discovery call. And either way, I wish you the absolute best on your journey. I wish you the peace that you deserve, the love you deserve, and the love that is available to you at every moment. Namaste, my friends. Bye bye.